This year, I am anti goals. Anti goals and anti expectations. For the last forever years, I have always mapped out my list of goals and strategies and ways I'm going to execute, things like that. This year, I'm like, I've done that every single year, and I just feel like it's forced. And so this year, I would consider 2026 the year of the anti goals. So my only goal is truly to be myself and to create art and tell stories and have conversations that bring me joy. That's it. So last year was the first year that I worked for myself. I didn't work for anyone else. I only freelanced and worked on Reverb Root. And one of the big mistakes looking back that I realized is that I basically treated myself like the bosses that I'm used to having. So I would try to force myself to make 6 hour days, 8 hour days work instead of just working at the flow of my own pace. Or is it the pace of my own flow? I don't know. Working at what works for me intuitively. So this year, I told myself that I did not want to do that and that I would really like to spend a maximum of 3 to 4 hours per day on work and on my computer, and spend like the rest of my hours in the real world. For like half of my life, I have spent most of my time online in some way, whether it was for work, social media, whatever. And this year, I want to actually experience my life in the physical world. So that means painting. Actually, I have it written down. I want to spend more of my time doing creative work like painting. I bought watercolor pastel pencils. I bought oil pastels. Um, I bought this very expensive to me watercolor paper. Um, I want to learn Spanish. I want to like get into doing things that are tactile, spend more time outside in nature, actually connect with the physical world in some way, shape, or form. Because one of my fears I've realized is that I will spend my life, look back and realize I spent my life um, on a computer or a phone. And that doesn't sound very fulfilling. Before I log off, the other reason I am absolutely trying to get offline is because when it comes to the work that I do, um, Reverb and Root, so much of it is about connecting that I feel like if I am so deeply entrenched in the online world instead of out and about looking at what's actually happening out in the real world and not being chronically online, I feel that it would sway or skew my view of reality. And I am someone who wants to be fully in reality and to connect and be able to hear stories and work with women and femmes all over the world in a way with way more clarity and mindfulness and intentionality and I guess like acuteness, if that makes sense, that I feel like I lack by being online so much. Um, I think when you're online a lot, you lose context because the way that media works, basically it's for attention, and so you just remove nuance and context and all of those things for the sake of getting views, or I think people's attention spans are shorter. And so for me, being offline more and in the physical world helps me kind of recalibrate my brain in a way so that I can really make sense of the truth and realness of things. I don't know if that makes any sense. Please let me know if this makes sense. I think I'm just trying my best to see things with clarity, see things for more so for how they are and how I see them truly instead of um, being swayed so much by other people and opinions and things like that. I also think there's this tendency to self edit constantly. So before you post anything, say anything, whatever, it's like you're constantly thinking about all of the like possible ways that it could be interpreted, viewed, received, everything. And it's to a point where I feel like it's a detriment. And so, like, before I even, like, for me, I've gotten to a point at times where it's like I'm not even posting anything, but just self editing my own thoughts. Like, I don't even give myself a chance to even consider and think and work through in my mind. I automatically self edit. And I think that's a problem that I really want to work through. And I think it would be really great to work through that so that I can really show up even more deeply and authentically in the real world, but also in within Reverb and Root. And I think it also gives other people permission to do the same because self editing is like pretty exhausting after a while. And I'm pretty exhausted. Okay, so I just woke up to find that the US has essentially invaded and kidnapped Venezuela's president. And that has got me thinking about the fact that I've always been aware of this, but I'm very much someone who is in the belly of the empire. And as someone who is in the empire, I'm curious to know how all of us who are also very much in the empire who are watching this are what's our role? What's our role in this um, of doing our part as we witness what we are witnessing? Um, for a second, I thought about maybe not recording this because I was a little bit nervous knowing that we are very much in the rise of fascism. Um, but I think it should be talked about. And so I feel like in me learning about it, the news this morning, I feel like it's given me even more fire in my own belly about recording the stories, about recording the stories and bringing people together. I think the stories are important because for so long they have been erased, suppressed, um, or people haven't even had a chance to tell their story. For me, especially on my dad's side, particularly on my dad's side of the family, we have like a storied history of being here since our history goes back to 1600s. So like before empire became empire. And I think about the matriarch of our family and the lack of ability for her to tell her story. The farthest extent that she was able to tell her story was through our family history, through our family line. Um, but I really do feel so compelled, and I felt compelled for so many years to expand that work of storytelling and using it to tell the stories of women all over the world. So, yeah, I am very much processing, very angry about what's happening, and trying to find a way to harness that anger towards something that can be used for beauty, for history. Um, yeah. As a Black woman living in the United States, I understand very, very well what it feels like to have your story suppressed, hijacked, co opted. Um, and so I think that that is probably the core. I know that's the core of why Reverb and Root exists, why I've been interviewing people for over 8, 9 years at this point, because I feel so strongly about people deserve to have voices and have their stories shared and have it shared through their lens on their own terms, using their own words. And to do so, I feel like every time I do an interview, every time I engage in conversation with someone, I literally shut my computer down and feel so much joy, like pure joy. It's like I enter a flow state that I can't even describe, but it feels like the purest sense of a creative act. Um, and so I feel very fortunate that I have something and like a work that brings me that level of joy and flow and fulfillment. Um, yeah, my dream is to be able to travel and document, produce documentaries, shows, media, books, essentially telling my own story and also telling the stories of others. And I feel that in doing so, especially at large scale, um, there will really be a lot of insight into the overlap of our stories and the topics that we cover. And so that's why I've got the archive on my website, on Reverb Root's website. You can explore by topic. You can explore just by scrolling and looking at people's photos, and the topic is underneath. Description of the conversation. Um, it brings me joy, and it makes me feel more connected to others, to the world, and to myself, and also to like a higher power. I feel like it's literally that deep of a thing for me. So yes, I may be in the belly of the empire, but I feel very deeply that I'm doing my part, and that um, as time goes on, my role in this um, will unfold even more, hopefully beautifully. Um, yeah.